everybody. It is 10:01 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, November 10th, 2016, and hope you guys are doing good. Jumping in here just to do our nightly update in case you're new here. This is the Earthquake 3D live stream, where we daily recap the events from around the world, seismically speaking, and we also issue new semi-daily earthquake forecasts for areas to watch around the planet. And if you tuned in last night, you knew areas to watch today in Europe, in Asia, in the West Pacific, and we'll get into the United States and areas we were watching there. Still haven't been struck in the U.S., it's pretty obvious. But several other areas have been struck, and let's get into it. So, check it out. Last night, we issued a warning for Italy to be on watch, topping out near mid-range 4. And check it out, guys. Look, just to the east. And when I say just to the east, to me, this is just to the east. But for people in Italy, this is very far away. This is 350 miles to the east. A 4.8 struck. Same time that happened, or relatively at the same time that happened, due south, and I mean exactly due south of the swarm location in central Italy, Sicily was struck by a swarm of smaller earthquakes, 3.0, 2.8, 2.6. Then central Italy swarmed up again and topped out near 3.5. And I went and checked the station information on that, and it was showing anywhere between 3.5 and 3.9. So, I mean, that alone right there is the movement we were looking for to strike central Italy, struck to the east-southeast down in Greece. Okay, so, I mean, that's an earthquake forecast miss. I would not call that a hit. In my, of course, assessment, I would want to get it right down to the spot that would be struck. But since the 4.8 struck, we then saw a swarm of 2s and 3s break out to the west-northwest. Whatever energy was not expended at the Greece-Macedonia border was transferred to the west by northwest. And both areas to the west, in Sicily, and to the northwest, up in central Italy, were struck. So, going into tomorrow, what do we have to watch for? Well, now that you had a 4.8 to your east-southeast in Greece, we know when we see earthquakes in Greece, usually within a day, we see activity strike to the west by northwest up in Italy. This means by tomorrow, we should see an earthquake that develops out at least a little bit smaller than the 4.8. 4.8 releasing some of the pressure going to the west should kick this up, and we should see about, and again, we're looking in the swarm location as our central point for movement. We're going to look for about a 4.3 to 4.4 to be striking back in this area. Now, is it going to strike to the east, like in Bosnia or the Adriatic Sea, or is it going to strike directly in our swarm location? Well, that seems to be the question of the century at this point. I mean, it's a matter of 100 miles. Is it going to strike in the Adriatic, or is it going to strike in the swarm location? Either or. But for the people who live in Italy, I want to give you a good projection as to what to watch for. So the chances, most likely, are to strike in the swarm location or very close to it, as opposed to the east. So the chances of it striking in Bosnia are lesser than they're going to strike in the swarm location. Why? Well, the swarm location kicked back up today. It went from 2s yesterday, you remember? 2s yesterday. Now we're at mid-3 to upper 3, right at 4.0. They downgraded this 3.5. But that's, again, like I said, it was at like 3.9 to 4. So it went down. Okay? Now, also, we need to watch over to the east for potential new movement to develop. And this is very interesting. We have to watch across Iran going up into South Russia. This is our halfway point, and the halfway point is something that, again, is always struck right now. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I got a cat emergency. It sounds like my cat's stuck on something here. Hold on. Oh boy. Oh, my cat was just stuck on the couch. Need to trim her nails. She was stuck on it like halfway up the couch. The cat's like hanging there on the couch going, "Row, row, help, help." Okay. Anyways, that's funny. Okay. Back to Central. If I had a picture on that, that would have been great. Okay, Iran, we have to watch up into North Iran, South Russia, going east. This is technically Afghanistan, Pakistan, but in this region here, the halfway point between Europe and the deep earthquakes that have happened over here in the West Pacific. So if you're not aware of what's been going on over here in the West Pacific, man, oh man, guys, let me just show you. Okay, last night we issued a warning. We told you guys, okay, there's a 5.9 here, and we have our 5s over here, and we have to watch our halfway point at the triangular bend. Now we have 2 deep earthquakes already happening at about 420 kilometers deep, about 300 something miles. Well, the middle point was struck. It was not struck by a larger earthquake. It was struck by a deeper earthquake. That middle earthquake raised even higher. That is relatively 400 miles deep, or 600 kilometers deep. Now this is on top of all this other deep movement that happened over the past 2 to 3 days. It's been 3 days of deep earthquakes between 400 and 600 kilometers deep, or 300 to 400 miles deep. Now there has been shallower, larger movement occur, like right next to this deep 4.2, we have a shallow 5.2. It was downgraded to 5.1, but whatever. Shallow 5.2 there. Also, next to the deep 4.3, we have a shallow 5.0. But that's not nearly enough what we would expect to come off of these deep earthquakes. Now, how many days is it going to take for this pressure to translate upwards and outwards? Well, the last 2 days, we've seen nothing but new deep earthquakes occur. This will cause compensation movement on either side of the plate. Now, I've already seen it occur down to the south. Take a look. Antarctica was struck yesterday, followed by movement to the west. This spot rarely gets hit. This is the Western Indian Antarctic Ridge. I mean, very, very rarely hit. So pressure is transferring up all the way down to the south. Look what's right in the middle here. Between our shallow earthquakes south of Australia and our deep earthquakes north of Australia, where does that put us? It puts us right into the middle. Again, we talked about this, and we put a 3 to 4 day warning on it. And this is day 2. We're watching for movement to strike back in central Australia. And it's going to be similar in size to what you see striking already all the way around it. So you see 5s, 5.2s, pretty much 5.1, 5.2, and a 5.0. So again, all sides of Australia moving, which means the area in between will move. Additionally, to the north, you see the movement happening up in Japan. Both sides of that are going to move with larger activity. Again, larger than what we're seeing currently happen now, which it's already at 5. If we go larger, we have to go up 1 magnitude. That takes us to 5.9 to 6.0. So we have to watch both sides. Both sides, not just one, both sides. Halfway point between the earthquakes that have moved. Okay? Excuse me. So, as we look across the Pacific over towards the United States, we're watching, I told you last night, this is now day 3. We're going into day 4, and no movement reported. But something I'd like to draw your attention to here that I brought up earlier that I find very strange. Something very strange, which is the lack of earthquake reporting stopping at the border of Oregon. Now to see that, let me go and turn on the last 24-hour feed. Okay, and this will show us all of our smaller earthquakes. Now, you might say, well, there's a few earthquakes mixed in there, Dutch. You know, what about that 1.9 that's up there? Well, guys, I hate to break it to you, but they're back to reporting explosions. Explosions again at Oregon. So they cover for these earthquakes. In other words, there's no earthquake. All the earthquakes stop at the Oregon border. And I don't believe that. I don't think it's naturally possible for earthquakes just to stop at the Oregon border, which means that there's a lack of reporting of earthquakes that are happening there. Now, why? That's the real question. Now, is it due to no earthquakes happening? Maybe. If that's the case, then we have tremendous building pressure up here off the coast of Oregon. It means it's going to release very soon with a larger earthquake. Or if they're not reporting earthquakes, then there could very well have been a 4 or 5 off the coast by 100 or 200 miles where no one's going to feel it, no waves created, no other agencies going to report it. I don't know. We have to look. I have to go check and peruse the charts again. But you can see massive activity spreading all the way over into Utah at this point, going down to Salton Sea with a new swarm. New swarms breaking out all along the California-Nevada border. New swarm up at Geysers volcano, which is technically a subshoot or offshoot off Clear Lake volcano. Then we have fault zone movement going down the Hayward Fault. Well, guys, this swarm activity is indicative of major pressure off the west coast. That's what we normally see. We normally see this flare up, especially to the north. The more flare to the north, the bigger the earthquake coming off the coast. So, did it strike already and is already pushed? Was that happening today? I'll have to go check the charts, but as it stands right now, no reported earthquake, but also the earthquake stopping at the Oregon border with the only earthquakes being reported, explosions. Back to the explosion stuff. Yellowstone moving over to the east, and I think it would be interesting at least to show you guys what is at these earthquakes over at Utah and Arizona. Now to see that, we're going to open up the coordinates. Now you see it says Beaver Dam, Arizona, right? It's just a microquake, but it's been a long time since we've seen any activity in northwest Arizona. Picture speaks 1,000 words. This will drive home the point of what I'm talking about here. With pressure exerting itself on the coast, it's displacing volcanoes all the way down the coast. And just take a look at it, guys. So we have Wolf Hole Mountain Mesa volcano, C. Miller volcano, an unnamed volcanic butte, and Dutchman's Draw volcano. Now, I like showing this one because of the name on it, but it just shows you overall the tuft on top. This is an old undersea flow when this was all underwater. You have to understand that there was a long time ago, these areas were actually undersea. Back it out, you'll be able to make it out where the Grand Canyon flows in and where this was all an inland ocean. And it goes up to the Great Salt Lake. So, magma chambers at these ancient volcanoes are being perturbed right now due to pressure coming from all the way off the coast, 1,000 miles to the west-northwest. That's going to result in a 5.0 earthquake, most likely striking off the coast. We've already been watching for 3 days and there hasn't been anything. Going 3 to 4 days without any earthquakes here? I mean, come on. So what's going on? Well, I'll tell you this, guys. The lead professor from the Pacific Northwest trolled me real hard on my Facebook pages, okay? Lead professor, he runs the geology department at University of Washington State, and he also runs the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. According to him, as he was trolling me, he said that naming earthquakes off the coast here is like a 4.0 and greater earthquakes off the coast here is like shooting fish in a barrel. It happens so many times per week. That was his quote. So he says, they happen every week out there. And I said, why aren't they reporting them? And he says, well, the National Earthquake Information Center, the NEIC, doesn't have the sensitive enough equipment to, or maybe the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, I don't know which he was referring to, doesn't have sensitive enough equipment to detect earthquakes off the coast. So they don't bother reporting anything above 4.5. That's what he said. So you're just not getting earthquakes reported, right? So we don't know whether or not a mid-range, that's what he said again. I don't think they happen enough to shoot fish in a barrel out there. I think that they're rare and that they are just covering for how we're nailing earthquake forecasts, personally. So anyways, now you know the scoop. The silent zone is off the coast still, and we're still watching for the movement to strike. If we get to day 5, 6, I usually issue 1 week forecast. So 7-day forecast, right? And by day 4 to day 5, usually the areas are hit. If we get to day 4, day 5, and the area is not hit, well, this is day 4. We're going into day 5 tomorrow. If it's not hit, what does that mean? Well, it either means, one, an earthquake did occur, because the chances of it remaining completely silent off the coast is entirely impossible, according to the professor. Or there's a tremendous building pressure that's going to lead into an even larger earthquake than what I'm looking for. Those are the options. So, which is it? Well, a day will tell. And the silent zone is usually the spot we watch, so I issue the warnings just in case. If I'm 100 miles off, it'll strike on land. Just ask the people over in Italy. If I'm 100 miles off, man, that's a big deal. It's a big deal because if we're looking at central Italy and I'm 100 miles off and it hits up in Torino or it hits over in the Adriatic, right, Bosnia, 150, 200 miles off, that's a huge deal. So I'm trying to get it down as close as I can to the areas and regions that should be hit, and specifically with the magnitudes. We can determine the magnitudes by what's coming or what we already see occurring. So if you see 5s happening all the way around the Pacific Plate, then you can determine your silent zone off the west coast, where you can expect a 5 to be striking in the silent zone off the west coast. When? Usually within 2 to 3, sometimes one day, sometimes 2 to 3 of these large swarms showing up in the region. So the swarm that's showing up now, Geysers, California, another swarm going on down to the south at Central California, another swarm happening down to the far south at Salton Sea, all happening at the same time. Well, it'll let you know the whole state of California is being pushed right now. And which direction is it being pushed from? Well, it's being pushed from the northwest to the southeast. You can see the track of earthquakes, how they progress outwards and downwards, down the coast, down to the south, and out to the east. Now, what this will also do eventually is put new pressure in the Midwest. Now, you see, Midwest back down to 2s, right? All day today, 2.7, 2.9, 2.5. That's going to pick up. That's going to double. That's going to go from 2.7 and 2.5 to 4.5 and 4.7. Why? Because, again, we're looking for larger movement to strike off the coast. Right now, it's displacing the whole area as far east as Dutchman's Draw volcano in Arizona, which is amazing. So, that being said, in the Pacific, with these deep earthquakes, guys, I don't take it lightly when I tell you this, we have to be on watch for a larger earthquake to strike. When I say larger, I mean 1 to 2 magnitudes larger than the deep earthquakes that we're seeing happen over the past day to 2 days. Now take a look at it one more time. The deep earthquakes, here, 1 second. Deep earthquakes raised high off the globe. This is the Australian feed. Let me get that off there. Deep earthquakes raised high off the globe, and you can make out the West Pacific up to Japan, down to Fiji, has moved exponentially, guys. Something massive is happening down below at 600 kilometers. 400 to 600 kilometers down below the plate. What does that mean? Well, right now there's a tremendous amount of pressure that's going to be pressing up between these areas. The whole Pacific plate has moved across nearly 8,000 to 10,000 miles if we go down to South America. You can't get this kind of movement down below the Pacific plate without seeing shallower compensation movement that's larger. And it's usually 1 to 2 magnitudes larger than the deep earthquakes. Well, we have a deep 5.9. A deep 5.9 can lead to a shallow 6.9 to 7.9. That's a huge deal. Now, where would it strike? The shallower, larger earthquake. Well, it'll strike one of our silent zones that hasn't been struck in the past 2 days. We have a few silent zones in here, in between the spots that have already moved. They stand out. Okinawa being one, between Japan and Philippines. South Philippines going into Western Papua New Guinea being another, between the 5.9 and the 4.9. Another silent zone to the west, west of Sumatra, going up into Myanmar, past Myanmar, over to the Middle East. All the bends in there, and you go to the halfway point between these zones. So, as we watch over the next 24 hours, I believe we will see shallower, larger earthquakes develop out and press to the west, over towards Europe. Middle East again will be struck. You can already kind of see it here over the past 48 hours. 4.4 to 3.6s across Iran. That's just indicative again that there's pressure coming to the west. Then the west coast of the United States will also be hit at the same time. That'll push to the east, of course, and that'll cause new activity to spread all the way over to the Midwest. 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that, guys. Got another problem going on out there. I don't know what's going on tonight. My cats are freaking out. Maybe we're going to have an earthquake in the Midwest in the next few hours. I don't know. But that's weird. That's twice in one night where it's like so bad I actually have to get up and go out. That's the first time. Okay, so, oh boy, oh boy. All right, this time it was a fight, though. This time it's a cat fight. This time it's hissing and I don't know. They didn't get into any catnip, I know that, so maybe I need to give him some. So I don't know, I just lost track of where I was. Oh yeah, United States. Okay, so when we're watching, we have to watch over the next couple days. That's going to push to the Midwest after the West Coast is hit. Now let's look internationally. Guys, down to the south, Central America, South America, it's pretty obvious. We have clusters of earthquakes developing across Guatemala and Mexico, fours over the past day and a half. And no follow-up activity of any noteworthy size yet near Puerto Rico. Well, you can expect that to change. And within the next day, maybe the next 36 hours, day to day and a half, we should see a noteworthy earthquake above 4.5, more like 5, strike in Puerto Rico, or very close to Puerto Rico. Why? Well, all these fours here. All these fours, plus the volcanic eruption occurring at Fuego in Guatemala, adds up together to be a 5. And so we have to watch to the east where the plate makes its bend, and that puts us back down into Puerto Rico. Now, I hope I'm wrong entirely. I hope nothing strikes, on land at least. And we hope it strikes out to sea, but I'm looking very close to the land, maybe right along the shores of Puerto Rico, within the next day and a half. So get the word out on the terremoto there, earthquake, and that it could get larger. It might scare people and cause slight damage because, again, multiple fours plus a volcanic eruption over here will press along the Cayman Trench over to the east, and that will release at our bend. Okay, now down to the south, our deep earthquake that happened 2 days ago. You see it raised high off the globe here, deep 5.1. Could lead to a shallow 6.1 to 7.1. Well, so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 different 4.0 earthquakes to strike. Okay, so 10 4.0 earthquakes equals a 5. 10 fours equals 1 5, energy-wise. So we're nearing almost 20, which would be 2 5.0s. Well, 2 5.0s add up to a 5.1. 5 plus a 5 equals a 5.1. So we have a deep 5.1. Then we have shallower expenditure of energy going all the way up and down the coast equal to a 5.1. Anybody shocked by that? Well, there should be a larger earthquake that develops out in our silent zone to the north and to the south. Both angles should be hit. Now, the spot to the north, I talked about this last night, should top out in the lower 6.0 range. And I said, I didn't know whether it would be a 5.9, 6, or 6.1. That's a 0.3 magnitude difference. But we're looking between 5.9 and 6.1 to strike in Ecuador, most likely near the Colombia border to the north, but central Ecuador to north Ecuador, a very small little stretch there. Then all the way down to the south, this is now going on well over a week without any new earthquake activity striking at the South Sandwich Islands. Now, we would expect to see activity strike there, so I would say the larger of the earthquakes should strike down to the south, of the two larger earthquakes that should strike off this. So far, it's been clusters of 4s going up to 4.9, topping out right at 5. We'd expect to see more than that So that shallower, larger movement is due on both sides. Both sides. It's not like we have a chance of one side or the other. No, both sides are going to be hit by larger movement, most likely in each portion, middle point of the silent zone, to the northwest and to the southeast. Okay, so United States, you now know what to watch for. We told you last night. Going into tomorrow is pretty much our last day to watch for it to occur. Otherwise, we will have to chalk it up as a miss, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. Have to watch again. Also have to go check the charts, see if they just pulled a fast one on us again, guys. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if that's happened or not. Now, over here in the West Pacific, like I told you last night, we have to watch our middle points, right? Well, our middle point was struck by another very deep earthquake. So now we have two middle points on either side of this deep 4.5. Both of those are going to be hit. So let's turn down the rings a little bit so we get a better idea of where to look. Okay, you look in between these deep earthquakes. Well, that takes us down just west of Tonga, right here, okay? And we go just to the west a little bit, and we come back down in the Solomon Islands. Middle points, and we watch for larger movement. How much larger? 1 to 2 magnitudes larger than the deep earthquakes. So you can see the deep earthquakes and what they are, 1 to 2 magnitudes larger. I mean, I don't even really have to tell you what they are. Look at it, 5.9 on one side, and a 5.0 on the other, or I'm sorry, 5.6 on the other. That's within 0.3 of each other. That alone right there tells us there should be at least a mid-6 to be striking in the middle point within the next few days. When I say few days, we go down to 48 hours. Now, central point between the two deep earthquakes, over west again, this is multiple locations, guys. This is huge. That's why I'm freaking out so hard, because for me, this is go time. This is the time to get multiple warnings out to multiple areas. All the areas that I'm warning are going to be hit. It's not like it's just, oh, there might be a chance of one of these areas getting hit. Each of these areas is going to be hit, and it'll be in the next few days. Okay, so, I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate here. With this amount of deep earthquakes, there is going to be shallow follow-up movement. Now, that's down here to the south, between the deep earthquakes. Now, what's going to happen to the north? The whole North Pacific is going to compensate for what's happening down to the south. You're pushing up on the underside of one portion, it's going to move down on the other. Well, that's going to happen over here in the North Pacific, and it's going to go between our silent zones again. So, silent zones on either side of the movement that we see now. Pretty obvious. They stand out. Both sides are going to be hit. They'll be hit in the next few days. This goes all the way up to Alaska, bends down to the western coast of Canada, which I'm going to get into next, because western coast of Canada is now under stress as well. Not only are we watching off the coast of Western California for a 5.0, but I'm going to put a 4-day watch on it starting now that we need to watch in central western Canada, northwest of Vancouver Island, BC. Why? Well, guys, Alaska has started to swarm out over the past several days, and it's gone up interior to the plate. Now, it stopped there. The pressure train, you can see which way the earthquakes progressed up into North Alaska, and just kind of stopped. They didn't carry on down the coast. We saw a little bit of activity in the 2 and 3.0 range hitting in BC, some near the pumping operations, but it's been a fairly long time, and I want to say, 2 months, maybe 3 months, since we've seen anything 5.0 or greater strike off the western coast of Canada. This now means, again with these deep earthquakes, and the fact that the whole North Pacific is going to compensate out on a 6.0 level, to the north, 6.0 level. We have to watch for 6s on either side of here, guys. Why? Because of the deep earthquakes. It's not like we're just watching for 4s. We're watching for 6s to strike to the north in our silent zones. And this goes over into Western Canada, another silent zone. But this is 4 days from now. Why 4 days? Well, we have to give it a couple days from the latest deep earthquake. So in Canada, you have several days to prepare right now. And we'll see by day 4, which tonight is, what is tonight? Thursday night? Okay, so Friday, Saturdays, by Monday night, we should be talking about new larger activity striking near Vancouver, and we'll all be talking about it. You know, we'll be like, oh, there it is. Okay, so by day 4, we should see that. So these deep earthquakes, man, I wish they would just stop for a little while, because every time these deep earthquakes kick it up, it's pretty obvious they've already kicked it up a little bit, because rare earthquakes are now developing out south of Australia. We're seeing new 5.0 swarms kick up all the way around, 4s spreading all the way down the coast of South America, going right out. Check this out too. Going directly out in both directions from our deep earthquake. These are color-coded by age, so the oldest earthquake on here right now is the 5.1, followed by all these other earthquakes spanning out in either direction because it's being pushed up. And as it's being pushed up, it's pushing out. It only has a few spots to go, up to the west-northwest and down to the east-southeast, following that fault zone. Ultimately, it'll build up and pile up down to the south. Same goes for the United States. When the west coast is struck, it piles up on the west coast till it can't take any more. Finally releases with a single larger earthquake, and then that pushes to the east, and it immediately starts excitement back at the fracking operations of equal size to what sprang on the west coast to begin with. That's how we get like a 5. Oh, look at that. A 3.0, a 2.9 just struck. Let's go see where that struck. Whoops. Let's go just take a quick look. We'll end our little update after looking this up, and I'll run over Europe again really quick, just so everybody knows what to watch for. But we should just go look it up. Why not? Eureka! Eureka! Yeah, there's gold in them there hills. Well, let's go see what's there. Usually where there's gold, there is also volcanic activity. Well, let's see. What do we have going on here? Oh. Well, I'll say, look at this. Look at these right here, guys. Look at this crater activity. We're not gonna, this is not quarry. That's not quarry. That is crater. Or maybe it's old quarry. I don't see. That doesn't look like man-made drilling or man-made cuts. I don't know. That's hard to tell. That's that's crater right there. That is crater. What do we got going on? What is this place? Did they dig out the crater of an old volcano or something? That is really strange, because either it's a very, very old quarry that's been weathered down so hard that the road that they would use to dig down into it has been done away with. But you can see the coloration on this, that it looks like, it appears that that's volcanic rock. But there's no active mining going on there, so if it is, it's a really old quarry. Do we have anything else nearby? Red Pepper Butte Volcano. Well, okay, we've got a tuft on top. Old weathered flows. Look at that. That's tremendously old. Red Pepper Butte. Okay. Looks like Red Butte and Butte Valley Volcanic Center. Okay, here's Red Butte. Well, that doesn't look too red to me. It definitely is a butte, though. Again, we've got our tuft on top. What else do we have going on here? Butte Valley Volcanic Center. Now, this looks more like a series of old volcanic buttes. Again, weathered over time. Ancient. Okay, so earthquake striking in this area. Pretty interesting to see that, guys. Again, displacement happening along the edge of the plate, and that's going to happen until we see our release off the coast. Hawaii struck now. Pacific pressure from the deep earthquakes coming up from down below. It's going to cause that as well. Okay, so quick rundown one more time. Over in Europe, what do we watch out for tomorrow? We're watching out to top out at somewhere around a 4.4. Why? Well, there was a 4.8 at Greece, Macedonia. Your swarm already kicked up today in central Italy, which may have released some of that pressure. Otherwise, you'd get a 4.8. You get a 4.8 causing a 4.8. So 4.8 in Greece, cause 4.8 in central Italy. But your swarm's slightly releasing that. That's why you got an increase today. More pressure has come in already. So by tomorrow, you should see a mid-range 4 finally released, most likely at the swarm location. Then we have to watch to the east. By tomorrow, should have new earthquakes. By tomorrow, I should be reporting on new upper 4s to lower 5s striking here at the halfway point. Halfway point is eastern Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan border region to the north with Russia. So it's a fairly large distance, but this whole area should be struck by multiple, like I said, upper 4s, lower 5 earthquakes to keep in line with the other 5s spreading out around the plate. And that's again from all the deep earthquakes. So once 5s strike here in the Mideast, then you'll be back on alert in Greece and Turkey. Okay, so in Greece, in Turkey, watch to the east and you'll see new swarms develop out in Greece and Turkey by, let's put a 48-hour watch on it right now. So 2-day watch, we will see an increase in Greece and Turkey. And by 48 hours from now, let's see, Friday, by Saturday night, we should be reporting about a new threat in central Italy. So we have a few days. You can enjoy the weekend. Tomorrow we'll top out near 4.4. That's not that big. Okay, that's good, right? So top out near 4.4 central Italy tomorrow. And then by Saturday night going into Sunday, we have to watch. You'll get a day off, no big earthquake threat, and then we're going to see new 5s kick it all back up. That'll push back into Turkey and Greece, most likely cause 3s and 4s. Those 3s and 4s might add up to another 5 in Italy, but that's like 5 days from now. So, if we can get through the weekend first, we'll be cool, right? So keep watch over to the east. That's what I do. That's what you should do too. Anything new happens, if there's any more deep earthquakes or a shallow, large earthquake, then we do an emergency update and we warn everybody in nearby areas because the deep earthquakes can cause shallow, large earthquakes, and then that, of course, spreads out all the way around the plate. We don't want to, again, be caught off guard by that. So have a plan. Be prepared. If I'm wrong, that's why you need a plan. Okay, you need a plan so that in case I'm wrong and you're caught off guard, that you know what to do. Okay? And you know your house. You know what to do inside of your house. And I'm not going to lecture you on those things. Most of us are grown adults here. We can look around our houses and figure out plans to make for each different scenario. Okay, so guys, there it is. There's our update for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pretty short update. I didn't have to look up as many, but it's, again, I do this so that we can get the warnings out. If you guys want, I'll be sharing this as a video on my channel in just a little bit, and you can get it out that way on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. If you're new here, please subscribe. Yeah, I know, I have to ask. And if you like my work, I also do have to ask, since they deleted my live stream again this week, since I'm not getting paid for my live stream and all the work I did for God knows how many weeks now on this frickin' thing, then you guys can give to my fundraiser. I have to beg. So if you like my work, please consider giving. YouTube screwed me again. I'm not getting paid for the live stream. So I put a lot of work in on this dang thing. Okay, guys. Also, tonight, I've got 2 packages I'm going to open. If you guys like my work and you want to send a question, or if you want to send something for me to read, or if you want to mail a donation, there is my P.O. box, and I get letters and packages from my viewers, which I read on air. And I'm going to do these 2 tonight. One from Sutter Creek, California, and one from Danky out of Waldensburg, Colorado. So we'll have to wait and see what's in each package there. I'm interested to see what's in each. So I enjoy that, and I hope you guys do too. Be safe. Like I said, have a plan, and don't be scared. Be prepared. That's the key, guys. And I'm reading chat right now. Wake up, Edmund, Alma, Nick. Steve, you guys, thank you for being in here and being part of this. Mark Scheinfield, Snafu, hey, by the way, you and Wake Up, thank you for the awesome letter. I hope you guys did get my thank you letter back, I hope. Just really cool to see everybody in here. Greg Miller. Oh, I will. I'll open them. I'm not going to do it now, though. I want to get this saved as a video first. So, but just good to see everybody in chat, man. I really appreciate everybody being here. And everybody over in Dutchsinse, Terremoto 3D International, Tanto Amore. Much love to my Italian viewers. I want to give you hope. I want to give you a good idea of what to look for. I don't want you to be scared. Right now, we are only looking for that 4s in the 4 range. So 4 range is not end of the world. That's good news. So right now, we're just kind of sailing along with new earthquake pressure coming in. Nothing too great, nothing too small. So right now, it's mid-range earthquakes, which is good. That gives you a few days to prepare, I suppose, for larger movement to come in. What else do I have? Oh, I did get messages from Janet Fullerlove, and I will be replying to Janet very soon. Her messages, for some reason, are going into my spam inbox. Somehow, Yahoo's marking emails from Italy, or maybe it's a foreign email. Anyways, it was in my spam inbox, so I didn't get them until somebody sent me a message saying you sent me messages. So I'll be responding to each message in the next probably half hour as I go take care of business. So cheers to everybody. Much love. Congratulations to everybody in the States for overthrowing the New World Order candidate. We won't go too much into it, but just again, I want to wish everybody congrats on that. Much love to everybody. Be safe.